Hello everyone, welcome back to the seventh episode of Design Decode. Today we have a very special guest with us. Let me introduce you to Pranishta. She currently works as a senior design manager at Microsoft. Previously, she has also worked with companies like Meta, Amazon, and Oyo. She is also alumni of IIT Roorkee 2019 batch. Hello Pranishta, how are you?
Hello, hi everyone. I'm great. I'm on my yearly vacation right now, but it's nice talking to all of you.
Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. You graduated from IIT Roorkee in 2019, right? So, from architecture background. So, could you share a little bit about your
Yes.
journey of choosing to become a product designer, and how did this idea strike into your head?
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, I was always someone who was like very much into science, and that's why I was pursuing IIT and I was studying for JEE and everything. But when my rank actually came out and when I was deciding what branch to take, um, there were a few engineering branches and then there was architecture, and I was always also a creative person. So I felt like architecture was sort of like in between the two, and I took it up and I joined it. I think first year, second year, sometime an interesting thing happened to me. Like in IIT Roorkee, there were a lot of like college groups, and there was a strong culture of like joining different groups to kind of like learn stuff. We had this group called SDS Labs, which is the software development section, and they were recruiting for software sort of like like software design or UX design as a thing, and I did not know anything about this, but just the fact that that group was cool and I had seen some of the websites and the products that they had built and I really liked it, so then I applied for it. And then I got through. I think at that time they were just testing like just like basic like HTML development and just like knowledge of aesthetics with web design. So I got in and then I started learning more about like at that time, firstly, I think Photoshop and Illustrator is what people used to use. And then Sketch came along and then I was just working on projects in campus. At a very small scale, like at a university scale or like at a like multiple university scale, we used to build um, hackathon platforms or just like streaming websites or just like side projects for fun. And then I think while working on it, I just like saw other seniors who had made a career out of it, and I found out that this is actually a really cool sort of profession that you can pursue. It has the same right mix of what architecture gets you, which is like there's a mix of like technology and design and curiosity, everything kind of coming together. But at the same time, like I saw like just career opportunity wise, a lot more like job openings, the pay scale being better, and then just like faster cycles of like how you build things, right? Because you can build things, break them, build it again, and that cycle happens really quickly as compared to in architecture where you have to like wait it out to make things real, and that pace also really appealed to me. Then I just started doing internships, honestly, with startups at the time and building out my portfolio on my own. And eventually, yeah, it became very clear, honestly, to me, like by second year or third year, that
Hmm.
this is the thing that I would want to do once I complete my course.
Okay, got it. So, what I observed that most of the beginner designers think that design is all about like the visual aesthetics or the visual part of the thing. So, would you like to uncover what design actually means to you?
Yeah, interesting question. I think so the visual thing is definitely a part of it, right? Like, and my definition for design, I draw that very much from this book that I read by Don Norman, which is called Emotional Design. Like his main book that's famous is The Design of Everyday Things, but Design of Everyday Things, I don't like, I don't enjoy that book that much. Emotional Design is the one that I really like enjoyed. And there's three layers of it essentially that he talks
Yeah.
about, right? The first one is the visceral layer, right? And then there is the behavioral layer, and then there's one more, like I think the more deeper, like functional, sort of like reflective layer, right? The first layer, so when you interact with anything, right, like any service, any product, anything that you're doing, any experience of any kind in life, you experience it on these three layers, right? The visceral layer is very instantaneous, right? Like I look at a table and I just like instantly, like based on the color, the material, the size, I would like subconsciously form an opinion of it. And that's where visuals come into play, and not just visuals, like all of your six senses come into play, right? Like with software, mostly we're like looking at it. So mostly it happens to be visual, but then there's like sound design and there's like all these like other things that can come, like tactile design when you're doing hardware, right? But all of this is like in the visceral layer itself, right? Like, and that happens like sort of instantly. That does make a difference to design, but that's not the only thing, right? The second layer is the behavioral part of it, which is actually like when people use it, um, how are they able to use it, like, and interact with it, like just the functionality of it, how well mapped it is, and like how well it behaves and works. And this includes everything, right? Like if I'm talking about, let's say, an app or a website, it means like it includes things like how fast does it load, like so there are technology and engineering aspects to it also. It's not just about like, oh, how many clicks. It's also about like between those clicks, how well is the product behaving, right? Like is the latency not like bad, or like is it not running into errors all the time? Like all of that matters, right? Like quality of engineering also matters. So all of that is the behavioral layer, and then you finally have the reflective layer, right? Which is that over time, how do people form an opinion? Like if you do repeat usage of something, right? Like you sort of like mentally, you would have a personality for it or a brand for it, and you will like associate with it. And then how do you design for that aspect of things, right? Like, and it could be gamification, which is a basic thing, but it could be something else also, which kind of like changes and behaves, right? As you repeatedly interact with something. So all these layers, I would say, are important when you're thinking about designing something. It's not just the visual layer. Like maybe the visual layer will get you like the early eyeballs and things like that, but it's not gonna go beyond that, right? But at the same time, I would say that it is still important, right? It's like I would say like all three layers need to be like the best products that you would think of. If you really think about them and break them down, like they would be working well on all these three layers, right? It's not like something that works very well but just looks bad, right? You wouldn't want to use that either.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this somewhere that things which look bad usually don't work good. I mean, people assume it that they will not work good. So yeah, I totally agree with it. So my
Yeah,
next
it's never
question,
like one or the
yeah,
other, right?
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
combination of all the three things as you have mentioned. Definitely. So my next question would be like, what is the personal growth as a designer look like? If you could take us through a journey, like how did you land your first internship at OYO back in your co college days and till the position you're right now? Hello, am I audible? I think there is some network problem. Hello, hello, hello. Uh, am I audible to everyone else? If you can just confirm.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I might have broken apart for a while, Somnath. Your voice was breaking for me a little bit, but I think I understood the question. You were asking about the journey starting from the beginning to internships and then eventually growing into a more like design manager and a lead role,
Yeah,
right? That was
yeah.
what
Yes,
got it.
yes, exactly.
Got it. Yeah. So honestly, if I were to think back to college, right, like I think the first internship, honest, when I was starting out, I actually did not believe that anybody like I really deserved to get like a proper paid internship. So it was a surprise to me also when I got it. But the only thing is that you just keep maximizing on your own curiosity and the kind of projects that you do. Lately, also, like right now is an interesting time because with AI tools and all the things coming in, right? Like there are so many ways in which you can really like learn fast and differentiate yourself and just build things, right? It could be personal projects and side projects that you're doing. It could be related to some academic projects that you're doing, but like something that someone sees in your portfolio and they're like, oh, hey, this person seems to bring in a unique perspective, because that's what people are looking for in internships, right? Like, oh, this person seems like they have potential. They're not really looking for someone who they know is like, oh, this person knows everything, right? They want to see people who are curious, who are really like willing to learn, work hard, and just like bring some fresh energy. So that is the kind of portfolio that you should bring. And also, it's really important to just like maximize your top of the funnel at that time, right? Because just apply, like I remember I made a spreadsheet, and I listed down like every startup, like starting from the dream to like probably like middle tier to probably like just like lower tier, but I listed all of it. And I made sure that I did LinkedIn connects to everyone, like designers in all of those companies, to other seniors that I might know, other contacts that I might have, and to their own career pages, and make sure that you apply everywhere. Because when you're starting out, like any opportunity is a good opportunity, right? Because you might not have that. Like for me, I was a self-taught designer, so I was not even from a design degree, right? So I applied everywhere, and it just so happened like at OYO, the design manager was hiring a few internships, and he liked my profile. So I spoke to him and I got that first internship, right? Then once I had that, then at least like I had some legit internship experience that I documented, and I think I got some mentorship. So I added it to my portfolio. And yeah, and then post that, because architecture is a 5-year course, I used to make
Mm,
sure that I take opportunity every vacation to apply to internships just to get more experience. And then sometimes I would do freelance projects or just like any projects that I was getting, right? Because it again, it was more about learning and trying to grow my portfolio more than anything else, right? And then I did like one of the internships that was really like foundational at that point was the internship I did at housing.com. I think right now it's like a little old, but when I was starting out in design, like housing.com was the hot shit, right? Like they had this design team and they had like all the like crazy designers, and they were doing cool things in the product. And even if you look at like all the design teams for startups right now, like Swiggy, Grow, whatever, a lot of their design heads come from the original design team at housing, right? So that was amazing. Like the quality of people there was amazing. I just got to learn so much and got to ship things and like build things, learned like new tools, learned motion, learned all of these things on that internship, and got to add all of that to my portfolio. And then post that, I think again, like because I was self-taught, some part of me always wanted to do like a big tech, sort of like a established design company sort of experience, just to legitimize in my case. I could have taken a startup bet, honestly, like that would have been fun also. But I think I was very much like, oh, because I don't have a design degree, like maybe working at Amazon or Microsoft or Google would be like really cool and would really legitimize my sort of like stake as a designer. So then I started applying very aggressively to those companies. I got an internship at Amazon and then at Microsoft. And the Microsoft one turned out to be the one that actually I converted into a PPO, because that was just a year before graduation, right? Um, and Microsoft has this studio in India called Studio 91. There's actually about 250 or designers across Hyderabad, Noida, and Bangalore who work there. So the design culture is very strong. There's a lot of products that Microsoft builds here. So there was just like a lot happening at Microsoft, and I was keen to join back at the time. um, Initial career again was also like just like learning the ropes of the job, like working at a big core. How do you collaborate with other people in your triad, like product managers or just the leaders or engineers, right? Like how do you actually deliver things with like really good quality? I remember like in the beginning, because I was coming from a lot of startup background, my design specs and handovers used to be really good and fast, but the level of detail that was expected, like, oh, what is the keyboarding logic, what is the accessibility logic, what is the high contrast logic, like there was so many design details that were expected at Microsoft that took me a while to just like really hone the craft. So the first like beginner level design career was just about like honing my craft a lot, and also making sure that I'm doing impactful storytelling inside the org with leadership and with the triad to get that impact out. Same with mid-level. I think mid-level career was also all about like just continuing to hone that more and more. right, is what you got me to the mid level at least. And also like the scale of the projects grow, so you're doing not just like more executional projects, but you're doing more of like vision building projects, and you're yourself able to grasp um, new problem statements that people should be looking after, define them, like get buy-in for it, like create excitement, sell it to people, make sure that people want to work on it. It actually then gets into the product. So all of those things I think got me to mid-level, and then somewhere in the mix, I remember I started feeling like, oh, probably like I've been at Microsoft for quite some time. Maybe I should like switch. And then I applied to a bunch of places. I remember at that time during COVID, the market was very good. Everybody was hiring. So I remember I had an offer from Spotify, from Google, and from Meta. And then eventually I was like, hey, Meta seems like cool. And also Singapore was nice. It was like closer to home. Taxes were really low. So bunch of different things added up. And then I ended up going to Meta in Singapore. And I worked there for like a year and a half, and it was amazing. Like I think it was also like a very good experience working at Meta, given that there I think work culture is a slightly different. Like the product designers sort of like pseudo operate as product managers also. Like the number of designers and product managers is very low. So I got to learn a lot more about, like, for example, I would be writing the specs also sometimes and discussing directly with engineering and then doing the design, right? So I just got to have a lot more ownership, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then when I was at the senior level, I think due to like personal reasons and getting engaged and like getting ready to get married and all, I wanted to come back to India. And at that time, I remember this was 2 3 years ago when OpenAI and Microsoft also had that whole partnership going, and they released ChatGPT. So it was just like a very interesting time with AI, and I was just like, I just want to work at the forefront of this wave. Like I don't want to miss out on it. So then I reached out to Microsoft and like my old people at Microsoft, and I pinged them, and they were just like, yeah, fine. You just like, okay, come back, right? Which is very nice of them. And also because I had good relationships at Microsoft, so it was like, luckily for me, it was a very welcoming experience when I joined back. Yeah, and then when I joined back, I remember like for a while I did the standard product designer role, and then a very interesting role came along 2 years back, which was like more of a chief of staff or like a studio manager role. So our VP of design, who heads the entire design studio in India, was looking at someone directly reporting to them and leading a lot of the sort of like cross team, cross product, like design vision sprints, managing the operations of the studio. So like a bunch of very different kinds of things that I had to do, but it was like not a manager role, but it was sort of like a role that came with a lot of leadership responsibility and with a lot of like work that was different from your typical just a designer role, and that appealed to me. So I did that, and I think that became sort of like a bridge for me eventually into a design management role, because there was very rapid learning that happened in that 1 year. And I think in that 1 year I was working, I don't know, like it felt like 18 hours a day. Like I was working the whole time, and it was like super intense. And it was very different also because I was just like, I don't know, like trying to manage design sprints, but then I was also designing very rapidly myself on certain projects. And then I was doing like design vision decks, but then I was also making like design handover specs at some point. And then I was also like, I remember doing vision videos of like different product pitches and then doing benchmarking with what ChatGPT. So it was very interesting, chaotic, fun time. A lot of learning happened. And I think one of the projects that I was sort of like working on started off slightly incubatory, but then became very fast pros, like, and picked up steam, which is the Copilot sort of like, so we have the enterprise Copilot apps on Windows, on the desktop, and on mobile. So the desktop story became very important, and that's what I was working on. I just went very deep into it, so that the chief of staff role wasn't really scaling. We needed a whole team to work on it. There was a whole engineering team and product team, everyone working on it. And then I felt like I wanted to continue working on that space because I had gotten so deeply involved in it, that then I switched to like a standard sort of design manager role. I have a team of, this was like I think around 6 8 to 8 months back. I have a team of 5 people now who are also like very amazingly talented who all work on the same area with me. And I think, yeah, I would say that early career, like to summarize it, was more about like being curious, learning fast, just trying to like apply your skills and just like honing your craft in storytelling. Mid career was similar, and then later, like senior to like transitioning into design manager role was, I think, just like starting to display the skills that are needed for that. And it's also not always about um I think it's not always about like, oh, I've worked for a certain amount of time, so now I will just become a people manager. Like, I don't look at it like that. I think it's more of like being able to scale your design impact through other people's skills, right? And it comes more naturally like that. For me, being a design manager is not just like about being a people manager. And there is this quote that Jonathan Ivey had, like I read, he was saying somewhere, was that, like design manager is not like a people manage, like it's not like someone who needs to manage other people. It's someone who needs to manage the design of the product as a whole, on which you need other people to work on because the scope is big, right? So yeah, so that's sort of my philosophy now as a design manager, is that I have to look at the product and the design as a whole, and you need many hands and many talented people to kind of like make that a reality. So I have to look at some aspects that go into making that happen.
Yeah, that is really fascinating actually. Especially the 18-hour parts. I was really shocked. I mean, even after going to a senior
It wasn't
level,
actually.
yeah,
Oh my God, dude. When you go to a senior level, they expect more. And
yeah.
when you go to like manager role or principal level, then they really expect more. Like, it's also like about you find a balance eventually, right? So
Hmm.
you do learn to scale. Like for my case, because I was working on it without a team in the beginning, and so it became a lot. But now I have a team with me. It's not 18 hours anymore. It's much lesser than that.
Yeah, sure. So my next question would be like, what is the ideal roadmap you suggest for any beginner people who started design right now? Like most of my audience will be beginner designers only. So if someone has to start designs from scratch in 2025 in the age of information and AI, so how would you recommend them to start?
Yeah. I mean, I would say firstly, like think of it for yourself in terms of a 5 year ish roadmap, right? Like where do you want to be in 5 years in terms of like what is the type of things you would want to be working on, the type of influence that you would want to have, the type of money that you would want to be making. Like you should think about these things consciously, and then sort of like work backwards from it first of all, right? And that will help you choose a bunch of things in terms of like the type of companies or workplaces you pursue. Like, are you someone who wants to be in India, or are you someone who wants to be abroad? Are you someone who wants to work on, like, is okay working on like larger, like big tech sort of like workplace, or you want to just be someone who's always working in like a very fast paced startup world? And then also like how much money do you want to make, right? And you can predict all of this based on like what sort of like path you take, and based on that you should plan out for now, right? And then let's say now you want to, I'll just take my example, right? Like I want to be at like a bigger sort of like tech company in 5 to 6 whatever years. I would want to be in a design lead role. So how do I start right now would be the question. And I think uh, what I would think is like, what are hiring managers who are looking to hire like really early in career people looking for in those companies? And right now, like I am one of the people who is hiring, so I can tell you what I'm looking for is generally again the same things, right? Like one is the sense of curiosity, and I look at a mix of skills that the person brings. So I want them to bring not just creativity, but like some more skills along with it, right? So either they understand business really well, or they have like past coding experience also, right? Like all of these things add up, right? So I creativity is the baseline and curiosity is the baseline, but then if they have any skills apart from that, that definitely becomes a bonus. And then apart from that, I think what I would also look for is like not just like how AI curious they are, like do they know about tools, they've tried it, like not just that, but are they actually building with AI? Right? Like, and how are they building with AI? How are they applying it in their process? Right? And is it that they're doing AI for prototyping, AI for storytelling, or actually like AI for, building and putting out stuff? Right? And that I think is the strongest sort of, like, right now is the strongest sort of thing that people are looking for, is like how AI native can a designer be. At least that's what I'm looking for. And I'm also like pushing my team very actively to become AI native. Like, we can't just be AI curious anymore. That, hey, we tried out this thing, and like, oh, this is also how you can do it in Figma Pig. Like, we can't just stop at that. We are actually now trying to use like our software developer agent in Copilot to actually fix the craft bugs in our product. So we sat with our engineering team, we asked them to give us the dev setup so that we can understand the code and we can like vibe code some of the craft bugs, right? Because there oftentimes there's like bugs in the product ki, oh, the font ramp is wrong or the color is wrong, and we have to like raise a bug, talk to our PM to prioritize it, then our engineer picks it up and they fix it. But can designers like wipe code it, some amount of it, right? So we're really trying to double down on all of this, and that is, I think, very important, like how you're leveraging that to really like
Mhm.
push the boundary and become more than just like someone who designs, but someone who can really quickly productionize something, prototype something in a way that it feels almost real.
Okay, got it. So mostly it's initially it's about building curiosity, right? So
Yeah, building
yeah,
curiosity and like, but
hmm.
with AI, like just being AI native while you're building that curiosity.
Yeah. So I mean, in the current industry, so people expect us to learn vibe coding alongside with standard design practices, right? So that would be more beneficial for the recruiters, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
my
it
next,
started off
yeah,
as being like good to have, but slowly
hmm,
I see that becoming like a must have.
yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, so my next question was normally that how is the hiring process of this big MNCs look like? You've shared something about it. Can you a little bit expand on that? Like not just Microsoft, like
Yeah.
any big MNC, like what are the standard practices they follow? Like these are some of the things that are must-haves, apart from the few things you have mentioned, like curiosity and like learning ability, apart from that. But they generally look for
Yeah.
in a beginner level portfolio or intern level portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah. I think same, like the things I mentioned, that's there. And then the
Mm,
quality of the portfolio, the nature of the projects, the general craft of it, and like not having a cookie cutter portfolio helps. Like there is some memorability in your portfolio because you're really selling yourself with your portfolio, right? Like, and
yeah.
oftentimes what happens is that a lot of people are using the similar type of like, let's say a framework template or like something like that, right? So then there's some sort of like inertia that comes across also if every other portfolio feels and looks the same way. So adding some sort of like your personality and USP into how you tell your own story in the portfolio, that really
Hmm.
helps you to stand out. Like people will remember your portfolio because there was like some element of it which was like so different or interesting or unique, right? So that is something that you should try to do, right? Differentiate yourself, like really spend time in how you're doing storytelling in your portfolio so that it stands out, like people remember it. um and then again, like craft of the projects is very important. Like, have you documented the solution well, right? Like a lot of what portfolios will do is that they will say this, oh, there's this like design process, right? 1 2 3 4 5 steps, and here is step 1 2 3 4, and that never really works out. Because what I would want to see and what anybody wants to see when they're hiring is like, yeah, sure, you did all the steps and that's fine and you can document it. But the solution that you created, how well is that articulated, right? Like, can I actually see what you designed? If you've made it, great. Otherwise, like even at a design level, like how detailed is that solution? And the decisions on that you have taken at an interface level, do they make sense? Like, is the layout actually good? Like, is the functionality actually good? Like, that detailing of the solution, that matters the most. So it could be a video, it could be like properly documented screenshots with call outs and zoom ins. But that part, I feel like a lot of people don't give it enough love They give a lot of love to the whole process and research and persona and this and that and all of these things, which is good. But the solution needs the maximum amount of love, and that is what really like should make sense and should feel like, oh yeah, this person's just like got it right, like they've designed this in almost like 80% correct way, right? So that matters a lot. And then I would also say that for getting noticed, because there's a lot of like influx of incoming applications, it always helps if you can get someone to vouch for you. It really helps you directly get into the interview process, because a lot of the times your portfolio itself might get screened out. Like some HR might look at it, and HR might not have the best like design sort of like knowledge, right? So what HR will look for is key, oh, college and like just the basic stuff, right? They might not actually understand the nuance of looking at a high quality portfolio, right? But that some design manager will understand. So what I see is that for self-taught designers, it really makes a lot of difference to get your work directly in front of like a designer rather than in HR, because HRs might not put you on the top of the stack. But if a designer looks at your work and they see the quality of the work, they will put you on the stack, even if you're not from, let's say, a design course.
Okay, got it. So this brings me to the next question. Like, does formal design degree actually helps in today's time? Like, you're not from a formal design degree, but I've seen like in the hiring job description, they always mention that you need X years of experience, you need to be a bachelor's in design or something.
Nobody cares about that, dude. If your work is very good,
Yeah,
people will like, and you, the right person needs to see it. Like one, your work needs to be very good. Two, it needs to be documented really well. And three, the right person needs to see it. They don't care about any degree or whatever. Like this is like a controversial opinion, but I would say that in today's world, degrees mostly are like a sham, right? Like dude, like so many people have done so many degrees, and hardly anybody is ever doing a job in which they're using their engineering degree or whatever degree they did, right? Now,
yeah,
doing a design degree helps. Like it's not like a design degree is useless. It is useful, and I know a lot of people who've done design degrees, and there's just like some kind of skill sets that they have that they've practiced, for example, typography, and they've gone so deep in it because they were doing a degree in it, that I felt like, yeah, they were better than me, because I never like professionally like academically studied that, so I had to invest a lot of time in developing it, right? So there will be certain areas in which you might feel like someone who has had the time to academically have a design degree might be better, but you can learn all of that, right? And I think a lot of the learning in general in the tech industry happens by just like doing stuff on the job, right? Like I know so many people who are great product managers and they never did an MBA, or great designers who never went to like design school, like they've done some other XYZ thing. So it really, I don't think is something that you need. It's it's very like it's very like 50-50. Like you have it, great. Even if you don't have it, like I would even say, like if I were to look at all the people in our studio, I think a lot of them don't have um design degrees, and that in itself speaks a lot, right?
yeah. Okay, got it. So for the folks who don't have it, like don't have a design degree, like I want you to share some light about how to get visibility. Like whether you should put yourself out, posting through the social media, or we should like DM people like, hey, you can see my work, review it. Like, what is the method that you followed, or would you recommend to follow to get visibility
Yeah.
on our work? Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that, right? So Twitter, um, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of these places, like keep sharing. I think keep sharing mostly like around your work. Don't get into the mix of like starting to do hot takes and all of that about like all sorts of things. Especially like as a beginner, I find that like as a huge red flag. It's like just like post good work and build a brand
Mm.
around that, right? Like don't have like random opinions about it. You it's fine if you do, but a lot of people, I feel like with social media sometimes they fall into the trap of this like thing, and it's unnecessary, right? Like people that then people start knowing you by that rather than your work. So try to build a brand for yourself around your work. Like when I was doing in the early times I remember, like that time we didn't have AI or anything. So doing 3D was like considered to be cool. And I was learning a lot of Blender and 3D. And I used to keep posting about that only, which used to get a lot of like views and attention, because at that time it was like the thing. It was like a fad where everybody was talking about, oh, as a designer, how do I learn 3D? A lot of people were doing a lot of work in 3D. So that is what I try to brand myself as. And you can pick your own niche, but try to put good quality work in all these three platforms. Try to get like eventually, and do it regularly, because it takes a while to get sort of like engagement on it. But if you continue to do it regularly, it and the quality of the work is good, it does get appreciation. Apart from that, yeah, just like talk to people, keep messaging people on LinkedIn and other places. Make sure that when you're messaging people, you're being thoughtful, right? Again, like a lot of people will get a lot of like input messages, right? And what would make your message stand out is like keep it short, but keep it thoughtful and like personal, rather than just like a template which is really long and you're just bombarding people with it. Then people will not pay attention to your thing, right? So do that. And again, make sure that your profile is also well put out, right? Like you have a nice picture, you have a nice description, like your LinkedIn looks like people are just curious to click on your profile and see like know more about you as a person, right? So make sure you're doing all that effort, and then talking to people thoughtfully.
Okay, got it. So, uh, my next question might feel like an interview question. Okay, but I love to ask this. So, let's say if you are a solo designer in a startup. Okay, so how did you identify problems in a product? And I have three questions. This question has three part. How do you identify problems? How do you validate it? And once you validated it, what is your exact design process you go through to solve it? If you can share us. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So I think identifying problems is usually very easy, right? Like the thing that you need to do is, one, spend time with your user. One, you audit it yourself, right? Like, are you using it in and out? You use it, you'll see 10 problems. You make sure, and for certain products it's very obvious because they are consumer products and you can just relate to it. But for certain products it might not be that obvious, and the user might be like, for example, someone who's like a professional doctor or something like that, right? So then you can't really necessarily relate. So you can catch some of the obvious problems, but for the other ones you really have to live with the user. You just like find five people, like first day, and you sit with them and you just ask them to use it, see them use it, talk to them about like their pain points. Just like that in itself will give you all the problems. And then obviously you can do this thing which is like look at what your competitors are doing. Oftentimes people would have encountered similar problems and done different things, right? So make sure like you're doing all those channels, right? Like auditing it yourself, looking at competitor products and talking to your users in and out, that it will give you a plethora of problems. How do you validate it? I think that is where, like again, like why if you're talking to people, then quantitatively, anecdotally, I think there's a lot of times you get, you're able to validate it. And if you're not able to, oh, one more thing which we do also regularly is like you should keep checking on like social media, what are people saying about your product. Like if you it's on some app store, like what is the rating, what are people saying, read the reviews, right? Like people say horrible shit in the reviews. Like mostly people who write reviews are people who had a problem, and it'll give you good insight into the problem that they had, right? So you get all of that together, and then to validate it, another good great thing you should do is just look at the data, right? Like you just talk to any PM on your team. They'll have all the funnels of like in terms of usage. How like where are people dropping off? What is the funnel looking at? Engagement, retention, like all of those standard things, right? Like look at that, it'll give you mostly a sense. Look at the NPS. Looking all of these things will give you a sense of like whether like the problem that you're talking about um, is just that one user you talked to, or is it actually something that other people are facing. It'll give you a very strong sense. So you correlate both of those, right? Like what you learn anecdotally and what you see in the data, you correlate it, it'll give you the, you can rank it like more in most cases. You will get like the top 3 4 problems that really need to be solved, right? And then you just like go out and design it. I think like actually designing it is the easy part. You just make a better design to solve it.
Okay, got it. So, let's talk a little bit about the industry right now. Like, what are your thoughts about the UX design industry right now in general? How is the AI part in the industry fit in, and how do you see this industry evolve in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe?
Yeah, I think in terms of like how is it right now, I would say that it's at a very interesting spot. It's not expanding as fast as it was a few years ago. Like I remember when I entered, I feel like it was expanding really fast. Right now, I feel like it's more of at a hey, sort of like a stagnant, like plateaued phase. It's still sort of expanding, but not very fast, right? Like it's not that you're getting like 100,000 whatever designers getting added to the workforce every day. It's mostly like everybody's trying to maintain a stable headcount with respect to designers, which is generally tech में with AI coming in, either headcounts are getting stable or they're getting reduced. The only place where headcounts are getting increased is probably like people who are working in, like AI and like actual data stuff. That's where there's more headcount getting added. Everywhere else, even like with software development, even with like a lot of other business development PM roles, either headcount is stable or it's getting reduced. So with design, I feel like headcount is mostly stable, maybe like slightly increasing. So the number of roles, etc., coming up is definitely less, which does make it more competitive now. So I would say that right now the industry is quite competitive. Um, the other thing I would say though is that it's also a very interesting phase because there's a whole new set of tooling, ways of working, how do you actually define what it means to be a designer in the AI era. Like all of that is very much happening right now. So that transitionary phase is still undergoing. And I think in the next 1 to 2 years, we probably would have more of an idea of exactly how it is. But right now, I think everybody is just exploring and trying to figure it out, right? Like, is Figma make the thing? Is like lovable the thing? Is Vercel like what is it, right? Like earlier, it was very clear that yes, in Figma you hand over a spec. Right now, like what is it? Like how far do you go? Like all of that is getting thoda sa defined, and that'll be sort of like clear in some time. um yeah, I think 5 to 10 years, honestly, it's very hard to predict for me also. Because AI mein everything is changing super fast. I think maybe the profession itself is like rendered useless, or maybe we are able to evolve. We will definitely need to evolve a lot. That I am sure of. We will need to evolve to make sure that what we're doing is adding meaningful value. And we actually need a human being who gets paid almost as much as an engineer to do it, right? Like if models evolve in a way that they can like just like design stuff and code stuff, then why are designers needed, right? Like that evolution will need to happen. So we'll need to upskill very fast. But I don't know exactly how it will happen because it's just yeah, it's hard to predict.
Okay, got it. So I was just browsing your LinkedIn profile recently, mainly your recommendation section. So you're highly recommended by your mentors for leadership roles multiple times early in your career. So I wanted to know how was the transition being like from a designer to a design leader?
Hmm. Interesting question. Yeah, I don't very much like think of myself as a leader still, honestly. Um, I think you just it's like a level of like maturity and judgment that comes in. Okay, so I think um when I was a designer and growing as a designer, it was always like, oh, what am I designing? Like, how good is that? Right? Like, do I know all the right like tools and like can I do this faster or better? Like all of those things were always like more about what am I building, how am I building it, is it the best, like how should I spend, like should I stay up the whole night and do it and whatever, right? It was like a lot of raw effort. But growing as a leader is more than that. I think it's more about like judgment and like decisions you make, and those decisions have like multifold impact and product level decisions, right? Like um okay, as a product, um are we working on the right problems? One, like are these the right problems that we should be working on? Two, okay, so are the right people working on these right problems? So let's say in my area, like we're working on 5 work streams in my team. Are those really the work streams that we should be working on? Like, are these the work streams that are improving the product, getting us the right business outcomes and the user outcomes? That product level judgment, right? The second judgment is like, if I know that these are the 5 areas we're working on, and I know like which area is more important, how big or how complex it is, and I have 5 people in my team, are the right people working on the right areas? Like that is like people level judgment, I would say, right? Like, and are those areas meeting the career goals of all those people? Are they motivated? Will they be able to deliver? Like, are they set up in the right way to deliver in it? And all of that people level judgment is also like really important, right? Like I think that layer of judgment is there. And then finally there is the process level of judgment also, right? Like the way that we are working right now, like the process in which we're, let's say, start when we start a project, when does the design review happen, with whom does it happen, how do we communicate it, right? Like who are the partners and how are we making sure that every, so in a large corporation a lot of the work is also about like people feel need to feel aligned with the decision we're making. Let's say I am designer on Copilot and on desktop, and I'm like, oh, in Windows, the Copilot icon comes here. This is people click on it. This is how it behaves. But then Windows team is also planning to add a Copilot somewhere else in the operating system, and that behaves differently. This behaves differently. Like there can be like tens of thousands of teams doing whatever, right? Like so how do you align people on like what is the best way for the end user when everybody is working in a different team, everybody is under pressure to deliver their thing, right? Like how do you reach a common design without creating chaos um, in the eventual operating system, right? Like all of this process and judgment you show here, right? Like maybe sometimes you don't fight it from like a personal battle that, oh, my team is making this thing, so this is why it should just be like this, even though you know that for a user it's going to be like creating too much noise, right? And it's like users going to feel like, why is it here and here and here, right? Like so like that level of process related judgment also needs to happen. And that's what really I think differentiates you as a leader, right? Yeah, you might not be the one who's really doing the things, but you're the one who's able to identify what are the right things to do and get other people to do them in the right way, influence them.
Yeah, so I was just wondering ki, like we know that design is a subjective thing. Like everybody should have their own opinions, but how do you like defend your design decisions like in front of stakeholders? So can you share something about it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. This
Yeah.
happens a lot, right? Like I make a design and I'm like, yeah, this is how it should be. And like my PM leader or someone will like, no, and whatever, right? So oftentimes this is how it happens, right? You have this data and some things because of which we need to do it, and they'll be like ki, acha nahi, but like ye button mein to you put this color, you make it like this that and all. So then like everybody will whatever click on it, you make like a giant cross button, and then you have to really like, one, I think as a designer sometimes you need to apply your judgment. Like, are you confident what you're saying is correct, even though other people have a different opinion, have a different opinion? And why do they have that opinion? A lot of it can be objective, right? You can benchmark it. You can benchmark it with like, hey, this is a heuristic, this is the pattern, this is how industry does it, this is how we have data, this is, I've talked to like whatever like 10 users and they see this as the better option. So these are all the things that you can do objectively, right? Like sometimes when there is no consensus, the thing we'll do is like we'll just take a one day and we'll talk to 5 people and then we'll try to get consensus. So all of this you can do, but then sometimes you also need to do this thing which is just to put your foot down and be like, yeah, whatever, like everybody is saying that there should be like a giant cross button, but I think that it will look ugly in this product. I think that it creates a lot of noise. As a designer, I don't think we should have this, right? So then you try to come to a middle path. Like maybe you make a smaller cross button, maybe the button appears on hover, like make sure that the problem is getting solved without compromising on whatever it is that you were trying to save. So that conversation always happens like that. But yeah, I think objective wala you can use, talking to users helps, and then yeah, your own. Like make sure you apply your own judgment as a designer and don't always get carried away with other people who are like too much into like, oh, this is how it should be.
Okay, got it. So, another question I have, like, when you look at your journey so far, what do you think has been the biggest factor that differentiate you as a designer, apart from the 18 hour stuff?
Uh, um, honestly, you should ask this to my team.
I mean,
They'll
what do
tell you
you think?
a
What do
lot of
you
the
think
stuff.
about it? What do you think about it?
I think balance in like having a more well-rounded judgment and
Hmm.
understanding of things and just like practicality, product reality, business reality, all of these things. Um, and then possibly I would also say like I think just understanding like dynamics of like working in an organization, working with people, having good relationships with people. Like I think like all of these things um I would say help. And then yeah, not generally like I don't shy away from going into like the details of things which are not directly related to design. Like oftentimes what happens is like people will look at design as a service provider, and I'm very much against that. Like I think design is very much into the making of the actual product, right? So I have, as a designer, I think I've always very closely worked with my engineers and PMs, right? Like I'm very much in the details of like what they're doing and why they're doing and how I understand and influence it back. I think that really helps um, you to have an edge rather than you being someone who expects like some level of like spoon feeding. Um, and then if you're getting spoon fed, then you can't really ask for a seat at the table later, right? So yeah, I think just that. Apart from that, I'm pretty average dude. Like there's nothing super special.
Okay, so this takes me that, like, what's a typical day at Microsoft look like? Like, is it hectic? Like, what are the recent products you have been
वो
working on?
meetings, बहुत सारे meetings, फिर और meetings. क्या?
I mean, I get
I'll
it,
tell
as a
you later.
manager, you'll be doing a lot of meetings, right?
Yeah, if you see my calendar, you'll just like you'll be scared. But no, as a typical designer, like, and even as a manager, like I've cleared up my calendar a lot now. I think typically it looks like you'll have maybe like in the morning a few of like your team or stand-up type of meetings, which you talk to other people, you discuss goals for the week or the day. You have time like a bunch of focus hours to do what you're supposed to do for the day, and then every once a week we have different like design review cadences. So some of the time also goes in just like I think um preparing for those and like participating in those and like showcasing your work and like getting it sort of like approved and aligned and getting feedback on it and iterating. I would say it's like a good split would be 40/60 or like 30/70, for like 30 being you're in meetings of different kinds and then like 70 being time for you to design. Our team also has this very good tradition of taking our lunch break very seriously. So my manager has put that together, which is that at 12:30, all of the design team goes and we'll have lunch together, where we'll discuss just like other creative shit we're doing apart from work. And there's a lot of great people in the team, so we all get to learn a lot from each other. People who smoke go for a smoke break after the lunch, and then we come back and we resume work. Usually 4:35-ish people leave in the evening, but because we work with US teams, there's often like evening meetings. Like so, people leave for home. I don't think anybody stays like after 4:35. People usually don't stay in office, but there are US meetings that people will then take from home, right? So that happens. Like early morning and late night meetings happen like twice or thrice a week. But we just like yeah, that's something we put up with.
Okay, got it. So, mostly if you have to rate your work-life balance, like, do you put it on more on the hectic side, or is it like the chill and hectic, like, kind of balance?
Honestly, for like all of my career it's been on the hectic side, but
Mhm,
lately I have been trying to find a right balance of it. I wouldn't call it
mhm,
chill for sure, but it has a good balance, right? Like I think
mhm.
I don't have like night meetings every day. I make sure that I have time kept aside for yeah, just like family and like doing other things outside of work, exercising, having a routine, all of those things. And you can manage that. And I know different people have different styles of managing it. So even at Microsoft, there's a lot of people who manage it much better than me. um, I'm just trying to learn from them. And now, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I just remember that you have met Satya Nadella also. So, how's that experience like? I just saw it in your Instagram.
Yeah, that was amazing, honestly. So the Microsoft has this hackathon, the
Mm-hmm.
global hackathon that happens every year, and I've always been a hackathon junkie. So I love working on hackathons. In fact, my Microsoft job also happened because they did a hackathon in campus that I participated in. This hackathon, we did a project that we ended up winning at a global level. So we first won in India and then at the global. So every year, whoever wins at the global level, they get a 1 hour slot with Satya, where you present, you pitch to him, and then he gives feedback. It was amazing, honestly. Like I knew, like, so there is a whole lead up to it. So when you win, after that, there's like some 9 to 10 months where the hackathon team really preps your project further. You keep working on it, so you know that you're gonna meet Satya. And I knew that for like 9 10 months. So like I was probably like not as excited, but when it actually happened, I was really like amazed and moved by the experience, right? It was a 7 a.m. meeting, I think, that we got. And we were in that special office where he sits. Like Microsoft has a huge campus, and he sits in, I think, building 32, 33 something. So we reached there way ahead of time because obviously you don't want to be late. So we were there at 6:30 a.m. But then we realized that he was there before and he was already like taking meetings. And he had flown in from Brazil like the previous night because he had something there that he was working on. And then he was the freshest person in the building, right? Like he was like wearing a white shirt and he was so fresh, like you couldn't tell that this is this early in the morning. And he was so warm and nice in the way that he spoke to everyone. There is a one pager that we had written for him before the meeting. He had already read that. He already knew what we are going to, it's like, so we didn't have to waste a lot of time, any time, in explaining everything to him again. He'd already read it. I think he'd seen some of the key points as well. So he was already like, he had some questions and well thought out recommendations prepared in how to take it ahead. So he was like super prepared for the meeting. And given how busy he is, that was also very uplifting, right? And then in general, I think it was really great to see the amount of knowledge that he had about like all sorts of things related to that project and how we can take it ahead. It was just like probably just like listening directly or talking directly to him for 10 minutes will give you probably like so much knowledge and insight that you'll end up feeling extremely elevated and motivated to like do the next thing, right? It was almost like spiritual to some level. Like his presence was very like spiritual.
I mean, yeah, makes sense considering he's one of the few people who are leading this AI race altogether. So, yeah, so my
Yeah,
questions,
yeah, you really
yeah,
talk to him and you know like why he's so special, right? Like it's
I mean,
just
sure, if I
insane. He has a
get
different energy, not
opportunity,
normal. Huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
if I get opportunity, I'd love to, sure. So, yeah, my questions are done for now. So, we'll take up audience questions for now. If anyone has any questions, you can drop in the chat. So, let's see if anyone has any questions. Um, it has been late, right, in Thailand right now. It would be like mostly after 10:30,
Yeah,
right?
I also have to talk. It is 10:30. So I was hoping
Okay,
that
you
we
had
can
your dinner,
end
right?
soon.
I mean, it's not getting late for you, right?
I haven't had my dinner, so
Okay,
I
okay,
will
okay.
have it.
Okay, okay. So we'll wrap it up then. Okay, we'll just wrap it up. So before we wrap it up, do you have any last message for the people who are listening to it? Any last advice you're going
No,
to take away? Yeah, sure.
yeah. I think um Yeah, you don't need anyone's permission to begin. So you should start
Hmm.
where you are. Just like build things, build your curiosity, right? Keep that as your compass, like believe in yourself and really like go out sort of with full force, building out your career. Now is a great time to start out in design. And if anybody wants to like ask more questions or like ask for advice, like you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm always very happy to talk to people, and yeah, I'll be happy to like give you opinions on your portfolio or anything else that you might need.
Uh, okay. So we have two questions. Would you mind answering them if you? Um,
I'm just like, okay.
okay.
So I'm checking Rahul's question.
Hmm.
How to research for case study for the same, also when you say documenting case study. Yeah, I think I covered this earlier, but
Yeah.
with case studies, researching is like just talk to a few users and just document that. And now with AI you can also have like synthetic users and like try to do that. Documenting it, keep it very focused on the solution. Like don't keep it focused on the cookie cutter, like step 1 2 3 4 5, this is what I did, etc. People don't care about it. I think people want to look at the solution that you have, the details of it, and how well that is represented in terms of like interaction design decisions that you have made on that, right? Like that is what you should focus like your case study on. So if your case study is maybe like 5 pages long, I would say like three, at least three of them should be about the solution, right? Like, and everything else can be on the first 1 or 2 pages. um Next question, sorry, I'm just going a little fast because I'll have to drop off.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So DP saying, if you have 6 months to learn UX to the level of Microsoft entry level designer, what will you do? What will be your path? Um, Honestly, I will look at some portfolios of the people who have joined Microsoft recently at the entry level, and mostly Microsoft also recruits from IIT Bombay, etc. So you can find these people on LinkedIn, see their portfolio, and then just like work backwards from that, right? Like make sure that you have a portfolio that is similar or better in terms of the quality of projects and case studies that you have, and that should get you good enough. Do focus on AI tools, as I mentioned earlier. I think try to create an edge. Like why would Microsoft, like these are the people who currently work at Microsoft. Like why should you be hired? So you bring something to the table which probably these people don't have, right? So that should be your goal. Um, yeah, that's it.
Okay, okay, so we'll wrap it up right now. Thank you so much, Pranishta, for taking your time to do this during your vacation. And I'm sure everybody listening would have taken a lot of takeaways from your journey. And I'm really hoping we could do more sessions in futures. Maybe some, uh, yeah, sure. So on the behalf of the entire design community, I am wishing you a very happy New Year and a successful New Year ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah. So once again, thank you for
yeah. Happy
joining
New
us
Year,
today.
everyone.
Yeah,
Okay, bye.
yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.